One of these days, that animation will work, for heaven's sakes. Welcome, everyone, to Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project, episode 360. My name is David Reed. I appreciate you tuning in. David Rich, the writer behind Stargate SG-1's Upgrades, is joining me for this episode. This is in my top 10 or 15 of the entire franchise, and it was before superheroes were really cool and caught fire. Before Spider-Man, I think around the time of the first X-Men. If you're in the YouTube chat, you can submit your questions to David right now. My moderators will take them and get them over to me. I am really looking forward to this conversation. David Rich, writer of Upgrades, welcome to Dial the Gate. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It is terrific to have you. I've been wanting to reach out for a while now. Michael Greenburg and I have developed a correspondence over the last little while, and you came up in conversation when he was on a few weeks ago, and I went and I checked, and I'm like, surely I've had this guy on by now, or at least attempted to reach out to him, and my oversight, my apologies. I would have had you on long before now because, thank you, but it's not. This is a tremendous episode, and it introduces a lot of elements. I'm curious to know which of those were imposed on you and which of those you had originally. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you. So it means the world to me that you're here for this. How are you a sci-fi fan? And how long have you wanted to write and create and publish material? And we're also going to talk about your novels as well.
Well, I'm not a huge sci-fi fan.
Okay.
I read sci-fi sometimes when I was younger, and sci-fi movies, but I don't. I have one sci-fi idea I came up with for a series, and I still love the idea. And I came up with it not that long ago, just before the pandemic, and an agent very thoughtfully, said, "Well, you've done this wrong and this wrong," and she was right. And she said something else. She said, "Unless you have real sci-fi bona fides and a name in the sci-fi world, you can't get a sci-fi series off the ground these days." So you go with the ideas you have, and I had that idea, but I don't tend towards sci-fi.
Okay.
And as far as writing, man, when you're, I don't know how clueless you were at 16 and 17 and 18, but I was pretty clueless. And I had a vague sense. I can remember sitting at the kitchen table and just blathering, something, and then looking at it a few days later and saying, "Well, this is embarrassing." And at least I knew that much.
Yep. Yep. What just came out of my face? What just came out of my pencil?
Yeah. But early on in college, I it sort of dawned on me that I wanted to do this, and I can remember some well-known writer came to a class. It was a small class, and I handed something in, and he said, "Well, whoever wrote this clearly wants to be a writer." So I thought, okay, yeah, well, he's right. If other people can see it, I ought to face it. And I went to graduate school and got an MA in English, and that in some ways teaches you that you're not good enough to be a writer. That's one of the things you learn when you get a master's degree.
Your own perspective on things.
Yeah, and so I had to do a paper. I was studying Elizabethan drama, And I went to the library and was looking, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? And I came across books about uh, the death of Christopher Marlowe, famous Shakespeare contemporary. And also, some people claim that Christopher Marlowe really wrote Shakespeare. I don't think that's true. But I
Good old
stood
Shakespeare
there in the
authorship. Yeah.
stacks reading this stuff, I was there, I swear, for an hour and a half, just standing there, going book to book to book to book. And I said, again, you face the truth, say, I don't want to be an English professor. I want to be a writer. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I finished my MA. It was there was a little bit of the hippie tour of America involved. Um, you know, so college was New Orleans, and master's degree was Boulder, and then I went back to Chicago. I'm a Chicagoan.
I can hear it.
I went back there, and then Tucson, and and blah,
Wow.
blah, blah, blah. And eventually I wrote my first screenplay,
What year
which
is
was a
this?
detective story. Hmm?
What year would this have been?
Oh, I wrote it. I had a draft by 19 late 1975,
Okay.
and I started asking people what the hell I do with it now that I've written it. And a friend who I hadn't seen probably since the eighth grade. I mean, we're still very close friends now, and he's a screenwriter, a very good screenwriter, and he said, "Well, your screenplay is worthless in Chicago." So I packed up the car and headed to just like Jed Clampett, but without the oil money. Headed west and wrote more screenplays. I got work. Boy, I got lucky in a funny way. Um, I got hired by two producers. They didn't have a lot of money, but one of them, his name was Jack Ballard, and he had been head of physical production at Paramount under Bob Evans. So he's head of physical production on Godfather, Catch 22,
Oh
Love
my.
Story.
Wow.
Yeah. And a guy who has that job knows everything about production, much in the way Michael Greenburg knows everything about production. One thing I saw, Michael, it's a pleasure. You should never. It's a shame you can't see him work. When he would get something, I mean, he would just go to work on the details, everything. Really, it was beautiful to watch. Anyway, Jack. So there was Jack and his partner Norman, and Norman was a real character, and on and off we've been friends and quarreled through the years. Very political
As
guy.
friends
I
do,
mean,
sure.
yes, yes. And so it was a real lesson in things not literary necessarily, but practical movie making. And a real lesson. I probably wrote at least five scripts for them. And I was, tending bar, of course, because they weren't paying me a fortune. I'll tell you one funny story is Norman, I'd written a script for them that was set in South Africa. And Norman had money, thought he'd raised money over there, and he'd gone to South Africa, and he decided he needed a rewrite. And he was from Texas, so he flew me to San Antonio and met me there, and he got me two motel rooms so that I could pace. And I had 5 days to do, a major rewrite on this thing. And he was flying back to South Africa and going to shoot it. And so it was. I measured it out: 7 pages in the morning, 7 in the afternoon, 7 in the evening.
It's math, yeah.
And when I handed it in, Norman said, "Okay, we'll meet 5 a.m. at the Waffle House across the parking lot from the."
Yes.
And I showed up at 5:15, so I got screamed at. But they liked the screenplay, and uh, he had shown up at the airport to pick me up with a gun. because he'd hired another writer who was a very expensive writer, a well-known writer, and that guy got in trouble on a plane and got arrested and wanted Norman to bail him out. Norman wouldn't. The guy said, "I'm going to come down to San Antonio and kill you." So Norman was walking around with a gun. It was that kind of
He's protecting himself.
world. Anyway, so from there, I wrote more, started to get a few jobs, and then I got real lucky and ran into Michael Greenburg at a party, and I hadn't seen him. We'd known each other at Tulane just 1 year, and then he transferred. So he said, "Well, give me a script. I work for this guy George England," and he gave George my scripts, and George liked them, and he hired me to be the director of development. Not that I knew what I was doing. Out at Warner Brothers. So we worked together, and I learned again from George. That was a master class. He had grown up in the movie business and in entertainment. His mother had been in vaudeville. His uncle was Jack Albertson. And so hanging around George, you learn a lot. And after that, more things. I wrote a play that got some attention, and then eventually I did a MacGyver.
Yeah.
Wrote a movie called Renegades that Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, a few other things. I worked mostly in features. That was what I wanted to do and preferred, but the TV experiences were all good. So,
well, I really appreciate you being here to talk about this, and I think you know what's going to happen next. You may not. I have someone here who'd like to say hello.
oh,
So let me go ahead and bring him in, if I can, here in just a second. Mr. Michael Greenburg, sir.
that's Greenburg.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Dial the Gate.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. David, I was looking through all of your credits, and MacGyver, Legend, Stargate SG-1. Clearly, you have a fan. So,
Yeah.
Mike, why keep bringing this guy back? What's he got?
He reads books and he writes books. He's literary, and I'm an idiot. All I ever read was Cinefex magazines and, film related stuff. David is, basically literary. So having him with me made me seem like I knew what I was talking about.
We used to go together, me and Michael, to pitch movie ideas, TV movie ideas mainly, to the networks. And we'd go to these lunches, and George insisted that we have 6 pitches. And that's a lot for a lunch. And especially because he didn't want one-line pitches. He wanted the whole thing worked out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
True.
Michael, we made a good team. The two of us, and Michael would charm the executives, and I would bore them.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the little basic one-liners, and Dave could actually fill out the characters in the story. Like we pitched one, I remember Dixie Changing Habits was based on Brandy Baldwin, the real madam in San Francisco who took care of all the celebrities and stars up in San Francisco. And I read an article on a flight back, I think from San Francisco. And I think I showed it to Dave and George. And I said, this would make a good TV movie because the Brandy Baldwin in real life, the madam, was busted for running a brothel in San Francisco. And I think she had some pretty high level politicians, people like that. And the judge, instead of sentencing her to prison, sent her to a convent for rehabilitation. So that's what we started with. And it was a pretty easy pitch, as I remember. I mean, that network was CBS.
Yeah.
Wow.
they picked it up right like in the meeting. Those were the good old days when you can actually go to a pitch meeting in person, sit down with the green light executive, and if they like the idea, you're going, you're in production the next day. And that's, oh man, I miss those days. They were
Yeah,
great because people really reacted to a great story with a green
Mm.
light. And yeah, so I would come in with the article, basically give the article to the executive. Nancy Bean was that direct.
that's right, Nancy
Yeah,
B.
Nancy Bean.
Yeah,
And she read it and said, I love it. Let's do it. It was pretty easy. We didn't have to say much, but
right, right.
yeah,
On
Sounds
the
like
other
so much
hand,
used to be easier than it is now.
yeah,
I
yeah.
went. We once pitched. Just a guy had come into the office, and it was easier to get on the lot in those days. And a guy came in and he said, "I've written a book about Stan Laurel. It's not published, and would you look at it?" So I said, "Sure." I was an easy touch that way, and in truth, it was a really good story, really good. So I worked it up how to tell it. We went, Michael and I went with Steve White from ABC.
Right.
He was the executive, and we pitched a bunch of stories that day, and he responded to it. He liked it, but he calls me up like 5 days later, and he says, "I have good news and bad news." I said, "Okay." I said, "Here's the good news: the Stan Laurel story tested higher than anything we've ever tested." I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, Brandon Stoddard was head of the network at the time. He goes, "Brandon Stoddard's not a Laurel and Hardy fan." I
Yeah.
said, "Well, gee, why did you test it then? Why didn't you just ask him?"
Yeah.
So even though it tested, he wasn't going to move forward with it?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But that was okay because you were in the office and you got the quick
Yeah,
response and you knew you could move on. I mean,
Oh,
that's right.
there's
okay.
back then it was great. I mean, then we developed, David and I with George. This is under the Newman England banner at Warner Brothers, where we were from 80 to 85. And so we had Paul's name as a good, way to get into offices, of course. But that didn't mean that we would get greenlit on everything
Hmm.
because, we pitched Reuben Hurricane Carter 20 years before that film was made, remember,
That's
to
right.
Mark Canton at Warner
Warner.
Brothers,
Yeah,
and it didn't go. We optioned the book The Palace from Paul Erdman and for Paul, and had some scripts written uh, based on The Palace, which was actually the Vegas strip war between Caesar's Palace and the Dunes and the whole struggle to get the big boxing matches and into live sports in Vegas. And Paul was racing at the time, so he wasn't really looking to work. The concept was great, and we ended up making it as a TV movie with Rock Hudson and Sharon Stone, and yeah, and it was a huge television success, Yeah, so it's
Wow.
it's it's crazy how these things evolve and
yeah,
either get picked up or don't. But back then it was fine if people didn't pick stuff up. Like David said, we would pitch five, six things sometimes,
right.
and yeah, you'd leave the office with information. Nowadays, you're just submitting stuff over the internet and you're not meeting them live. They don't even see the passion behind the people that are making the show
You are
because
praying
we're
to
not
see if
there.
something
We're not
sticks.
there.
Yeah.
Our agents are sending our pitches in. We work hard on the pitch deck and the script and the treatment, whatever, really hard. We pour our souls into it, but our souls aren't in the room pitching it.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different world now. I hate it.
Mike, While I've got you
Yeah,
with David, I would like to skip ahead. And David, when you and
sure.
I are by ourselves, I'll work on my way back around to the front of this episode. But Upgrades is one of the first shows in season 4. Teal'c still has
Yeah.
his blonde patch down here. Carter still has her long hair. That a couple of weeks on an alien planet after the replicators really screwed with them. This was specifically, strictly speaking about production. Mike, what
Yeah.
do you remember about Upgrades? Because I remember some stories about this particular episode that were
Yeah.
divorced from the writing of it, but were interesting challenges, shall we say. And I'm interested to see how much came back to David, how much he heard about.
Yeah, because he was all the way back in Connecticut, or LA at the time. He was in both places. But
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
remember about Upgrades is, first of all, Dave's pitch. It was the one-liner was just phenomenal because you strapped on these armbands, these forearm bands, and you became a Marvel character. You became a superhero. So, I'd like to have one for myself today. So, Dave, if you can send one over, that would be great.
No
But
problem.
so I remember the concept being out of this world. I mean, this was before Marvel and all that. I mean, of course, superheroes existed,
Hadn't taken off to
in
the degree where they
comic books,
have
but it
now.
had, yeah, it
Right.
hadn't taken off. And this idea of Dave's was just phenomenal. I think I mean, David Reed, you would know best, but I think it's one of the more popular episodes that we ever did. I mean,
Yep.
it's talked about a lot as being a lot of people's favorite. But what I remember in prep with the art department and the prop department, the design and getting the armbands, because it was all about the armbands, getting them looking real and great and ancient. So a lot had to go into it because it's high tech, but it's also ancient discovery stuff, artifacts discovered. And I forget the woman on the planet, but it was, I think,
Vanessa
delivered.
Angel, Anise and
Yeah,
Freyna. Yep. The
right,
Tok'ra.
right.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Anise.
The
Anise.
Toker, right.
This is her first
And
episode, by the way. What we need is a
oh,
sexy
okay.
female alien on this show.
Yeah. And so Kenny, our prop master, I remember him battling with it, battling with the armbands. Once they're on set, now they had to fit each of the characters that wore them, basically our main SG team. And I remember that being a struggle, but we ended up getting it, of course. You got so many people there working on stuff that we got it looking great and feeling great, and the actors loved it. And it was just a great concept that we were able to pull off and make it come to life. Superheroes. I mean, great. I mean, I wish that existed. Maybe they're working on it somewhere in China or Japan. I don't know.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Michael, I really appreciate you coming in
sure.
and sharing some stories. Would you work with Dave again? And
Oh,
what do you
yeah.
think you guys would crack
We
next together?
we talk all the time.
Oh yeah.
Anything that I get green lit, he's on. I mean,
Ah,
that's been our whole career since, we met when we were 18 years old, freshmen at Tulane University. And and then he moved out to LA in the mid 70s when I was an assistant director. And then I got this opportunity to go over to Newman England Production Company at Warner Brothers, and I took him with me
of course.
because, like I said, I'm way smarter with Dave than without him. So, yeah,
Well, let me tell you something else different. It's a little different. Is is Michael? I told you before, is a production guy, right? And it's you see him start to work, and literally my eyes popped open when I saw him start to work when we got something that was going. But also, you should know that he's really, really, really good with story. And if
Hmm.
you give him something, you better listen.
Hmm.
That's what I learned in working with him, is that you're a fool if you don't listen. And I have actually, I got caught off guard a few years ago. The same guy I told you at the beginning said, my script, I have to come to LA, with my script. He's a writer and a very good writer. And the topic of Michael came up, and out of the blue, and he's not close with Michael. And out of the blue, he said, I sent him something. I didn't know that, because how you have friends in different groups,
Sure.
but they know each other. And he said, yeah. And he said, I couldn't believe how good his comments were, how right and smart. So production and story,
Hmm.
you know, and yeah, I haven't seen him act.
Well, that's good to know. A terrible actor. Well, you're seeing it now.
Yeah, even in Wormhole X-Treme, he's sitting. But no,
Oh,
no, you do have a line of dialogue at the end with Brad.
yeah.
You did speak. You were
At
one of the
the end.
last two.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
right.
Yeah.
No, we collect people throughout our lives who help inspire us and shape us to be the people that we later become. And I don't think that you have to break away from someone just because you're doing a new thing. There's no reason to try and fix what isn't broken. If you've got a guy for
Right.
this that I can bring in to do the job, and I know that it will be done and be of quality, why the heck not? Why would I not bring him in?
Exactly.
And those are the people that stay with you throughout your life, and they may come and go in seasons, but that's the thing that I love about this business, is because it allows creative people to continue to have the opportunity to stay in one another's orbit, project after project. You can try something different over here, or maybe we're doing this kind of a thing over here now. What do you think about this? And it's clearly worked for you guys, from MacGyver to Legend, Stargate, and on and
Yeah.
on. So, Michael, I really appreciate you,
Sure.
continuing to stay in touch and mentioning David a few weeks ago. And
Yeah.
I'm still ashamed that we hadn't brought him in up to this point, but thank you, Michael.
Oh, you got it. Anytime. You're the
Absolutely,
best.
sir. Thank you, sir. David, you're going to stick with me, and
All right.
Michael, if you can
Yeah.
just go
You
ahead and
too.
end it on your end, we're going
I
to
can do
continue on
that?
this side.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'll text
Let
you
me
soon.
see if I can figure out how to end it
I
on
can
mine.
actually press it here.
Okay.
I'm going to
There you
boop
go.
you. You take care of yourself.
Okay. You guys too. See
Bye
you, Dave.
bye.
See you soon.
No, that's okay. Perfect. All righty. It said remove. It said, but be warned, he'll never be able to come back in, and you'll report him to Zoom. I'm like, that's not the button I want. Gosh, good guy.
Oh,
Really
great
good
guy. He's a really. I'll tell you something else. One more thing
Behind his back. Okay.
is that you work in Hollywood, and everybody thinks they know a lot of stuff,
Of
right? Everybody's
course.
saying, no, it's got to be this way, and this way, this way,
Yep.
this way. And it's a lot of, they don't mean it necessarily to be negative. They think it's wisdom, but it's negative. And when Michael is the opposite. When something looks like it's going to get going, he's the most positive guy. It's wonderful to be around. You can't, so, yeah, let's go.
He's not in it for his own aggrandizement. He's
Oh,
in
not
it
at all.
because he's there to make, I hate the word product in this case, but the project as cool as possible. And I think it's one of the reasons he's continued to be so successful. And he and Rick set the tone for that set for 8
Very much.
years, and everything that came after as well. And it's exemplified in their work together. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Where did this idea for upgrades come along? When did the kernel of it pop in your head like Orville Redenbacher? I love this episode. Please tell me there's some interesting stuff.
I wish I could tell you exactly.
Okay.
When I watched, I said, I remember how I first came up with the idea. It's something my father used to say, and you hear other people say it, is, as you get older, you become the same, only more so. And I thought, okay, well, what if you have these people, in this Stargate team, and in a way, somehow, the who they are, something's going to make the who they are become more intense. And I said, okay, superpowers, what would that do to somebody? What, right? And people take drugs, think they're giving them superpowers. And of course, the people only become themselves, only more so. They don't become somebody different.
Their judgment goes away.
Yeah, the
Their
judgment goes away.
filter.
All the right. Uh, so I thought that would be an interesting thing for the Stargate team. And then, as I recall, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Believe me, I
It's only
don't.
been 30 years.
Yeah, I had it reversed from the way it is. I could be wrong about this. I think that I had them on another planet. They'd gone through the gate and came across these things, and that things gave them superpowers, and they brought them home, and then had to deal with them. I think that was my original. But again,
That
if somebody told
sounds.
me no, I'd say okay.
So Hank Cohen said at the beginning of season 4, what we need on this show, is a sexy female alien.
Mm.
Because Jerry Ryan had exploded
Yeah.
Star Trek Voyager's numbers as 7 of 9. So that kind of thing was catching fire. So I suspect your story was adjusted so that she could then, as Anise and Freya, come in and deliver them. And that was the vehicle for her to start her multi-episode arc, and also facilitate your story. I suspect you're right about that being your original intent.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Okay. And then I don't remember much. I remember seeing it and going, okay, they changed things. That's how it is. As the staff writers do great work. I know when I first went to MacGyver, that was the first episode I'd ever written, and I was really impressed by the people on the staff and how focused they were on MacGyver and who he was and what everything. I'd been a casual watcher of it. I liked the show, but I wasn't you know studying it, and then so I didn't meet the Stargate team because I was here in Connecticut, but I assume they're the same. They're really zeroed in on the whole team and everything they're doing.
The amount of talent that was running this thing, especially by season 4, it is not just that everyone knew who those characters were. Everyone had them all pegged. So as long as they stayed out of each other's way and stayed in each other's lane, providing the right stuff to fuel these performers and the visual effects people and the production teams, you really had a win. I love the idea of this story because you're taking, and I love that I love your original nugget here. You're taking basically the right stuff meets pick your superhero. When Daniel is quoting what's on the armband,
Yes.
I rewatched it yesterday, and he said, it says, with great power comes great responsibility. For my generation, for today, that's a cliche, because Spider-Man, that is the theme of that first film. And X-Men and Spider-Man really reinvigorated the superhero genre to the explosion that took off a few years later with Iron Man and the MCU and the just absolute concussive wave that these 35, 40 films have been. But that really was a much more novel idea at that point, because anyone who hears that now will be like, okay, that's Uncle What's-His-Face, Peter Parker's uncle. But it really is the nugget of that theme. And it makes a lot of sense that SG-1, their base instinct is to be there for people and to do the right thing, even when no one is looking. And if your judgment is subtracted, how far would you be willing to take that, even to your own peril? Right. What else do you remember from that original script?
Not much.
Okay.
Honestly, I've got to tell you, I don't. I was at the time, I think after I pitched it and after I wrote a draft, I had two jobs writing features. And, your mind, you try to give everything you're doing the best you can. So whatever happened, I went into those things and I don't know.
Okay.
I wish I could tell you more.
No. Well, let's see what comes out as we move forward with this. Kevin Weaver wants to know, was the line about "with great power comes great responsibility," was that part of your original idea, or did that get added later?
I can't say that I put that line on there,
Okay.
but I can tell you that uh, if I did, I probably wrote it differently.
Okay.
Uh, and because, Michael said I'm a literary guy, so I'll be a little literary here.
Sure.
There's a very famous short story that I read and reread and reread by Delmore Schwartz called "In Dreams Begins Responsibility." And that's actually a quote from a poem, and I can't tell you the name of the poet. And it's something I think about all the time. In dreams begin responsibilities. Yeah, right. Delmore Schwartz. So uh, I can't say to you, yes, I put that on the armband, but I bet if I did put it on the armbands, I put it rather than the way it's phrased, probably phrased it "in dreams begin
Wow.
responsibility."
Wow, that's cool. 100%.
So
Were you ever made aware? Let me tell it this way. David Sinclair was the property master at the time, to my knowledge. Kenny Gibbs, Evil Kenny, was on set underneath him helping. He wasn't, I don't believe, property master just yet. But I spoke with Kenny in 2011 for the Stargate SG-1 in Atlantis props auction that we were putting together. And I interviewed him for our first catalog, and I said, what was the most difficult prop to work with? And without a hesitation, he said, the armbands. Did you know that?
really, no, I did not know that. And I will tell you, that when I wrote it, and pitched it, I had no idea the armbands would look like that. I was very pleasantly surprised because I had bracelets, sort of this wide bracelet that they would slip on. So
Wow.
congrats to them for designing that very cool thing.
Infamous thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. It's interesting because what you're describing is very much what came later on here. This was created for Atlantis.
Oh.
This was a wrist device and it wrapped
Yes.
around the user,
Yeah.
a character called Kirik. And we also sold those as well. So what you described is very much that right there. But yeah, they created something that had flaps to it, and the original one that they made, it would open and close, and it would fly off the actor's arms during production. And not only that, which would damage the electronics, obviously, it had lights that were constantly going. And so they were having to cool these things in ice. And it slowed down production so much. They eventually went back and they fabricated ones that didn't open and close, but would stay on their arms. So for one or two of the final days of shooting, it was a little bit better. But it was an absolute nightmare. And it's like, it isn't even what you conceived of in your mind. They took it in a different direction. I think it was Ken Rebel who probably did the artwork for it. I've got it here. I should actually pull it up. But it's interesting that something which was not your original intent in imagining it, but really did look awesome on the screen, ended up being such a pain in the neck for everybody. It was just outrageous.
Pain in the neck, but it's a big improvement over what I imagined. I saw it. I said, "Oh yeah, they're right. That's how it should be."
100%.
Yeah.
When you create something, you hand it off to someone else, and
Yes.
who knows how it's going to come out the other end. When you, as I'm curious, because you're not on staff in this case, you are submitting ideas. Would you be permitted to submit in notes, this is how I had this thing in mind, and would they, I guess depending on production to production, be willing to add that idea to the mix or not, based on what the story that they wanted to tell needed to be told?
I think in general, my experience is once they're going, they're going. And
Right.
they don't want to hear from you too much extra. I did have one advantage is that I'm very close to Michael.
Yeah.
And if I'd wanted to, if I'd seen it and said, no, Michael, it should be a different way. But I think he's very practical. And, he had big responsibility to move things forward.
Sure.
In television, right? The schedule is everything.
100%.
And you've got this many days to do the episode, and you don't have this many days and a half.
That's it. It has to.
Right.
It has to come out.
It has to come out, and feature films different. Oh, we're 5 days over. Well, everybody complains, but it's not a tragedy. So
There's a lot of money to fuel that. Here, let me pull this up here. Here it is.
Oh yeah,
That's the piece.
those things are cool.
Absolutely. And it's conceptualizing something is one thing. Willing it into reality and making sure that it can work on set can be something completely different. And they got their days in, but you never know what is going to be
Right.
more interesting or difficult or challenging to pull off.
Yeah, you wouldn't think a little thing like that would be the issue.
Yeah.
Is because if you think, well, they're going to blow up this ship and they've got to do the cooling system, you think, well, maybe that's going to be a problem or an issue, but no, it was this. Yeah.
Which I'm presuming you got a chance to look at the episode again.
Oh yes.
Which of the performances do you think really pop on screen? This is a great episode for Rick.
Rick, here's the thing, and I got to know him a little bit, and he's a really good guy and a cool cat, and but when you watch him in this episode and others, and clearly he's a big team player. Here's a guy who goes from being MacGyver's the whole show to now he's part of a team and he fits right in on the team. But doesn't he remind you? Nobody talks about this. He reminds me so much of James Garner. He's got that kind of, Garner can do it one way, and he can be amusing. He can be funny and he can be serious and he can be, very understanding and sympathetic. He can do all these different things. And Rick was like James Garner in that way.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and in this episode, it comes across that sort of, he's having fun. He's cracking wise.
100%. I think of Harrison Ford, as
Han, there you go.
as Han or as Indy. Just kind of, there's a little bit of a wink at the audience. The situation sucks, and he turns and goes, ugh. No.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging, he's bringing you in on the situation. That scene with him and Don in Hammond's office. Jack, get the hell out of my office.
Yeah.
That's peak SG-1.
Yeah.
And how they all interrelate together as characters really makes the show what it is. Because
very much,
it's loved being together, and you loved watching them.
Yeah, when they say it's the SG-1 team, but it really was the team.
Yep.
I mean, you see the show, you go, it's clearly they're a team with all the things that go on, in personal relationships, and that really was the engine of the show, more than the sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
The sci-fi is cool, but it's those characters with each other
Yeah.
all the time.
That's why you stay.
That's why you stay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony wants to know from the O'Malley's restaurant scene, was the line, I want Diet Coke, I prefer the taste in the diner, written by you, or do you recall that either being an ad lib or written by someone else? I'm curious because I watched that and for years it was like, so do I.
I don't know. I cannot claim
Okay.
it. I can't. The staff writers would know more.
Absolutely. Raj wanted to know, was there ever any consideration to a follow-up?
Well, no, they used it. They used clips
Yes.
in 2 other episodes,
Yes.
and I think they're the Carter O'Neill clips.
There is one that is, it's footage that they had that more than likely shot during the week that this was shot for an episode later on called Divide and Conquer. And then they used one for a clip show that was specifically showing,
I see.
informing a meeting that was going on about the team. But that was actually, I'm really glad that you brought that up because that was actually really clever. It's the only instance that I can think of in the show where they either went back and shot new footage for that episode or they had that shot because they knew in 2 episodes that this was going to be a plot point and saved it until later. Maybe it was in the original episode for time and they cut it, but there is a shot of them making eye contact for an extended period of time. And if you go back and look at upgrades, there's no beat for that to fit in because the Jaffa are coming.
Right.
And maybe that was just their recollection of that longer beat in between them.
Right.
Than actually occurred. There's a lot of subtext going on in that scene.
Yes.
Yes. Did you find out later that they were planning on carrying that in? Or did
I
you
had
know
no idea.
You did, so
no
you
idea at all.
Found out like way later on then.
Way later on. Okay. And then as far as following it up or doing another episode based on the same thing or something, that wasn't no one talked about it, and I didn't. I think I mentioned to you in looking for my notes in my scripts, which I couldn't find. I did find an earlier pitch that I'd made when the show was brand new, and reading it, I can see why they didn't want it, but it was a little bit too much. It was more. There was an awful lot packed in there.
Can we talk about? Can we sit on that for just a moment?
Of course.
And then we can come back around to it. I'm really interested in this, what you're going to have to say, but I want to wrap this little bit up here first. I think part of the reason, although tongue-in-cheek, that they didn't do it again is the prop department probably would have rioted. The other part of it is that, it really is an encapsulated warning about what it is that we think that we can do. You can use it as a metaphor for drunk driving. You can use it for any of those things where you're so high on whatever it is that you're doing that you lose your objectivity, that what it is that you may be doing may in every other circumstance be perfectly legitimate, but you've taken it to the nth degree and you've lost your objectivity on the situation and you're going to cause some real problem. Look at the keys, taking the keys away from the driver situation. Alcohol removes any barriers that you might have, and you feel that you are on top of the world and can pull anything off. I don't drink. I've never drank, so I don't know. But this is what it comes down to, and it was very much a kind of thing that you could see happening here, where you could show this episode to your 9 and 10-year-old and say, okay, so what did we learn from this? Besides, with great power comes great responsibility. This is a great episode that you can share with your kids and say, see what happened here? They were all in best intentions and well-meaning, but they almost lost each other from this because they didn't think everything through. It's a great story in that regard.
Yes, absolutely. It's a, it's a story in that way about intoxication.
Yes.
And the thing, when people talk about drinking or drugs, and they don't mention that for a little while you feel great,
Yes.
you know, and that's why it's so dangerous. If if it was lousy right away, nobody'd be an addict.
No one would be doing it. That's right. There
Yeah,
is something that you're chasing that you want to get back. So,
yeah,
and all of us have that in one way, or whether it's a sensory experience or whether it's a whatever have you. And I think that that's one of the reasons why this and other Stargate episodes and these concepts are so evergreen, because there are pieces of it that we can always take away. And while we're enjoying the entertainment part of it, it's like, boy, I can relate to that situation and that experience in one way or another, and at different
yes.
points in my life in different ways.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Marcia Middleton, she said, so apparently Anise and Freya, apparently there's an affectionate nickname that some fans have developed for her, Tokra Spice, from the Spice Girls musical group. So this is the
Yeah,
first I've heard of this, so that's funny.
that's funny.
Uh,
Licorice spice.
this is the last one that I'm going to do this to you. Vegan Peace Rider 2500 was the line. Do you want me to read to you your idea or an ad lib from Rick? Rick was awesome with his ad libs.
I'm going to bet that's Rick.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going to bet that. Yeah,
You
yeah.
had pitched an idea earlier on in Stargate. You alluded to it earlier that they passed on. What can you tell me about this pitch?
Well, it was a sort of they're on another planet, and they've gone there because uh, a group, sort of a druid-like group, is taking over, and there's a sort of young Arthur before he was king situation, and it was called the Spinning Sword, and it had. I remember. It's funny. I found the notes, and then a lot came back to me.
Yep.
um, I really liked the spinning sword. It was instead of a sword and a stone, the sword is spinning in the air, and anyone who tries to grab it ends up getting chopped up. And uh, Carter and O'Neill, are really working on this because they want to help the young Arthur. You know, if he can control the sword, then the people will rally around him. And Carter figures out it's spinning in a sort of a box canyon, that it's held there by a sort of by sound, um,
Okay.
so that the sound is pitched in a certain way, that the air underneath, the molecules underneath is heavier, and above is lighter, so it keeps. And then also the sound is affecting the material the sword is made of, so that the sword is spinning much faster than it appears to be spinning. And one of the ways she found out was she took a piece of fruit, and from underneath the sword she tossed it up, and the fruit got sucked up right away. And so then she figured out that. And I had, at the time, uh, Schlumberger is a company that did oil drilling. They had a lot of scientists, and I played basketball with these guys. And I remember I came up with a version of it, and I was pretty proud of myself. And I asked one of the physicists, and he was a quiet guy. And the next week he came back to me and he said, "Yeah, your idea would work." So I was pretty happy. But the way I structured the story, it was too elaborate. I can see now why they said no.
Did you know that they went on to do Arthurian mythology for seasons 9 and 10?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And they have a sword in the stone twice
They have a sword it's in the stone though.
in the stone. Yeah.
That's a shame. They should have come back to me for
They
that.
should
But
have 100%. You said Arthur, and I'm like, whoa. So it's funny how some things come
yeah,
around years later. That's kind of wild for sure. Christina,
yeah, it's natural that they think of Arthur,
yeah.
for that show eventually. So
mythology. Yeah, they're doing different mythological stories across SG-1, and that one, sooner or later
Right.
would at least be mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Christina Graziella, do you think that working for MacGyver helped you with Stargate? Did Stargate benefit from your experience with MacGyver and with, well, let's not forget Legend?
Oh, very much, very much. I was recently telling Michael, the guy who was in charge of MacGyver was a guy named Steve Downing, and he says I had worked only in features to that point, and I'd worked, quite on a lot of things, and I'd had good mentors, and I learned a lot, and I came in and well, I had sort of a screenwriter's attitude, like I know what I'm doing here,
Mhm.
and this guy Steve Downing was very, very straightforward and very clear. He's a real clear thinker, that what you need on a show. And I pat myself on the back a little bit, is that I said, man, I better listen to this guy.
Right?
It's his show.
Yeah.
He knows a lot. And he's not, you meet a lot of movie producers, who contradict themselves mid-sentence, or they change their mind because they saw a certain billboard that morning, or they're this or that or whatever it is. It can be very frustrating. And Steve Downing, and Michael, and this is the other writer. They had Stephen Candell on that show, who was a fantastic writer who'd written everything from Bat Masterson uh, to Mission Impossible. He'd done everything, and so I learned a lot. And then Legend, also an excellent experience. And then so when I came to the Stargate, episode, yeah, there's no question that the experience helped.
It is so easy to derail a production by not having someone at the top who has a clear idea of what they want. You can have more than one person at the top. Look at for season 4. I mean, you've got Robert Cooper, Brad Wright, Rick, and Mike. As long as everyone has the vision that you can't have. I just saw this thing on a billboard today, and I'd really like to do that for our show. It's not conducive to a positive creative work environment if you're just going to drop that in on everybody in the middle of a play. It doesn't come organically. It's fine if you want to do that for like an episode or something, I suppose, but if you're at the top, you have to have a clear creative vision, so that your lantern is guiding a guiding light for the people who are following you. And I can only imagine the stress when that's not the case.
Yes, and
It's what you
well,
want.
the if you think of it from, let's say, Rick's point of view, or any of the actors, the main actors, how much they value that,
Yep.
having the people at the top of the show with a clear vision. Because, Rick, I'll tell you another MacGyver story. Is so I'd done, I think, the first MacGyver, and it was real good and everything positive, and then I was getting together with Michael. I think we were going to a hockey game, and I got into the car and I said, and by the way, this is weeks later, I said, by the way, thank you for marking up the script with lines I should change. In other words, he was very close to Rick.
Mhm.
He knew how MacGyver would phrase something. I thought I had it right, but and anything he said, I did. They knew, and I said thank you. And he goes, "Oh, I do that for everyone, but they don't all listen."
That's right.
I don't know, you know. So yeah, actors, they're putting themselves on the line
Mhm.
every minute, and it's everybody can see it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later.
They have a
So
brand
they
to
don't want to
uphold.
go out there
That's
with
right.
somebody giving them the wrong material.
That's it. And I imagine a writer who is receptive to uh, to that kind of creative input. Sooner or later, I'm sure there is a line. because he can't ad lib his way through everything. Brad Wright
Oh
once
yeah.
told me, if you're going to make it better, great, but if you're changing it just to change it, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense and is probably conducive to getting to to working again with those people in the future. I'm sure that there are people that you would never want to work with again, but the ones who do, you're vibing on a certain creative level, and it's like, okay, these people are really getting to the intent of what it was that I was trying to create here, and they're only shaping it to make it better. So,
Absolutely.
and I think
Absolutely.
we
You're
can,
just
yeah,
thrilled when they're making it better.
yeah,
And when you're a freelancer, you learn pretty fast, it's their show. They they know it inside and out. And it, it you know, it's your job to learn some of what they know and put it on paper.
100%. Can you tell me about your books that are available? This is
Yes.
davidrichbooks.com. What are you working on these days?
Well, I'm working on a play. Along the way, I wrote some plays. And then last winter, I said, I'm just going to, I'd written a new novel and I tried something different in it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into the whole description of what I tried in its form. And my agent wasn't interested. And I said, I'm going to write a play and get it on. So I wrote a one act play, and it got on in New York in a festival over the summer, and I directed it.
Okay.
So that was great fun for me,
Yeah.
really fun. And I had a really good cast, and I was real happy. So I said, well, I'm going to do this again, and I've written another one act, and that's what I'm doing. And I have this novel, and I'm going to rewrite it a little bit, and I'm not hot and bothered about another new novel at the moment. And if you're not hot and bothered, why is anybody else going to be hot
That's a fair point.
and bothered? So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and there's the three novels there on there's Caravan of Thieves and Middleman and the Mirrored Palace. Um,
Beautiful art. I love the fonts too.
yeah, great.
But
No,
don't judge a book by
everybody.
its cover. What's going on? Are these a series? Are these separate?
Uh, Caravan of Thieves and Middleman are about Lieutenant Raleigh Waters, who's a Marine lieutenant, and he he was raised by a con artist, and his mother wasn't around, uh, so he was basically a street kid a lot of the time, and he's got his father's wiles. He knows how to do things in the world. So his father went to Iraq as a civilian worker, and the we shipped a lot of cash over there.
Oh yeah.
Huge pallets of cash, and inevitably, of course, soldiers are just humans.
Hmm.
Some stole,
We wanted them to use our currency. Yeah.
and uh, so the story of the father, Connor's father, has stolen a lot of the money, millions, and shipped it home in coffins. And now the father's disappeared, and the guys who want the money uh, have come after Raleigh. And so it's that adventures, the Caravan of
Wow.
Thieves.
This is reminding me of a
And
Cormac
his
McCarthy
father's,
book.
what's that?
This is reminding me of a certain Cormac McCarthy book.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so then he has a second adventure. Also, it involves going back to Iraq, to northern Iraq, and he's dealing with the Kurds. And again, though, there's stolen money. And then the third book is the Mirrored Palace, uh, I had a long, long fascination with Richard Francis Burton. You know who he is?
I can't vaguely remember coming across the name.
He was, you know, an astounding adventurer. He's most famous for having found the source of the Nile,
Okay.
but he had many wild adventures, and one of them was he disguised himself as a Muslim and went on the Hajj. The Hajj is the pilgrimage every Muslim
Mm-hmm.
must make at least once in his lifetime. This is the mid 1850s, and it's great danger if you're caught faking. No non-Muslim is allowed
Mm-hmm.
into Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
And but he had mastered many languages, and he studied the religion. And I said, well, still, there's no. For a long time, I was just really fascinated by this. And finally, I came across a true story. His niece had said something about him. He was a great ladies' man, famous for this. Also, he translated the Kama Sutra. He translated the
Okay.
Arabian Nights.
Okay.
He'd done all these things, and his niece said the love of his life was a young Muslim woman, and when her parents found out about the romance, they killed her. And I said, okay, well, that's like a story from the Arabian Nights. And if it happened to Burton and the Arabian Nights, I turned it into a spy story with some unexpected twists. So
What's the
that's,
third one? The Mirrored Palace.
and and
Forbidden Love.
I've got some people with the, we've turned it into a mini series, but we'll see.
Okay. I would enjoy definitely seeing that one. Folks, if you go to the description beneath this episode, you will find the link to davidrichbooks.com so you can check those out. David, what's next? What's going on? What are your
Well,
plans?
my plans. Well, I'm one of these people, man. Uh, I can't stop writing. I like it,
You have a drip you can't shut
and
off.
and it gets harder to like selling movie and TV projects. Living in Connecticut, most
Yeah.
of my contacts are gone. They're not the people who liked my stuff. That's sort of not happening. So the novels, I'll write full with some ideas, and I've got the novel I told you about that I've got to work on, and then I'm enjoying this with the plays. I'm going to turn this one act into two acts, and we'll see. I don't know. I'll just keep writing and keep trying. I like it too much to stop. I don't know what I'd do every day if I did.
There is something about just the process of creating
Yeah.
that is its own reward. It's very nice to get reimbursed for some of that work every now and then, but it's
Yes.
there is it's like it's in some ways like giving birth, and getting to see the looks on other people's face of folks who enjoy and have derived some kind of satisfaction from something that you imagined. Upgrades is truly one of the best episodes of Stargate SG-1, and I'm thrilled to have had the chance to sit down with you and mull over some of your original thoughts behind it. It means a lot to me that you came in, and also that Michael was willing to join
Yeah.
as well. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Very much. Well, thank you. This has been terrific, and I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you taking the time. We are slowly but surely gathering up these stories to preserve them for the future, and I'm sorry that we took as long as we did to get yours in, but we've got you here, and it means a lot to have you, sir. So thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Great interview.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up the show on this end, sir. So you be well.
Okay. Take
Thank
care.
you. That's David Rich, writer of Stargate SG-1's Upgrades. My name is David Reed. You are watching the Stargate Oral History Project. Let's take a look at what's coming down the pike here real quick. Is it pike? Pipe? Pike? I think it's pike. Let me pull this up. Just a moment here. Herbert Duncanson, who played Grell the robot, who was played by Douglas Arthurs, who is based on the character of Teal'c, played by the actor Christopher Judge, who was not in the feature film, is going to be joining us tomorrow. And if you don't get that joke, you are not a real Stargate fan. A new one here, and God, I'm hoping for a better title. Actors as authors. So Diana Drew Botsford, who is the writer behind Stargate SG-1's Four Dragons and The Drift tie-in novels, is going to be host, and she's also a Hollywood producer and writer. She wrote Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. She worked on Terminator 2 for one of their shots. She is hosting, and we have Armin Shimmerman, who played Antaeus, and Harley Jane Kozak, who played Sarah O'Neill. This is going to be Sunday, October the 26th at 10 in the morning, so not tomorrow, but next Sunday. And then Saturday, November the 1st, Robert C. Cooper, executive producer, writer, and director, is going to be joining myself and Darren Sumner for a pre-recorded show. I will try to get out a request for you guys if you want to submit questions for Robert for his interview here, but we're going to be focusing pretty laser focused on a few different topics. And we are currently rescheduling Stargate Trivia, the last one for the year, this time with Sue-Ann Braun. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, please click that like button. It really does help the show and will continue to help us grow our audience. And please also consider sharing this with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. If you click the bell icon, it'll give you notifications the moment new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes as well. That's what I've got for you here. My thanks to my moderator team, Raj and Kevin, for this episode. Really appreciate you guys. Anthony, Jeremy, Lockwatcher, Marcia, and Jacob, all of my moderators. Thank you so much. Matt Eagle SG Wilson for his amazing opening sequences, and Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web for keeping dialthegate.com up and running. And thank you so much to Michael Greenburg for his surprise pop-in. He's not going to get credit, unfortunately, at the end of the episodes when I tiled this one, but he will in IMDb at the very least. So thank you, Michael, for coming on and sharing some stories about David and the production during upgrades. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you on the other side.